All right. Good afternoon and happy Friday. Let's get a few things shuffled around here. My end. And let's check this. Okay. All right. Here we go. Welcome. For anyone that is new, first of all, welcome and thanks for watching. My name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is the Deep Dive, which is a weekly live stream program into the internals of CircuitPython. However, I will preface it by saying the Deep Dive originally was started by Scott, the lead developer of CircuitPython project, and when he is around, he does the Deep Dive, and he is generally working on stuff at a lower level and more sort of cutting edge than I typically am. When he's out and I am available on Friday, then I will try to fill in. And it's a similar kind of format where I am working on some code somewhere inside the CircuitPython project, but not necessarily whatever is cutting edge in the core. If you are brand new and you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more about it at circuitpython.org, which is the main website for the project. This is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. There's a bunch of pictures of them over here. If you choose to use CircuitPython with your microcontroller, which is just one of the many different ways that you can program it, if you do choose to use CircuitPython, the way it works typically is you plug it into your computer with a USB cable. It shows up like a thumb drive. There is a Python code file on that thumb drive, which you can then edit. And when you save it, the microcontroller, the actual computer that's in the little chip in here, will interpret and execute that Python code that you saved into it. So that is kind of the super high-level version of what CircuitPython is, which again is the main thing that is worked on this stream. What's up, Gordy G? Nice to see you, my friend. Salutations from Toronto. So let's go also and say, as always, thanks to Adafruit. Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York, and they're the ones who make CircuitPython possible by paying both Scott and myself and the rest of the team of people who work on CircuitPython. So as always, thanks to them. And if you want to help support CircuitPython, one of the easiest ways to do it is purchase hardware from them. You can get not only the microcontroller devices, many of them, they design and manufacture them, but also all sorts of add-ons and things that you can hook up to your microcontroller to do various different projects and things with. New this week, there's some displays, and it looks like some sewable power connectors, as well as some more stuff if we went deeper. So thanks to everyone who does that, and thanks to them for making CircuitPython possible. And with that, we can jump in more or less to what I want to work on this afternoon, evening, in my time zone at least. Animation. Okay, there's Squirrel 1, YouTube 0. What's up, Beata? Nice to see you, my friend. LED animation, CircuitPython, GitHub. That should get us there, probably. And we're just going to see how many of these / which ones of these we can knock out. There's a few that I looked at before, which I kind of had my eye on, and then there's some others which we may be able to work on as well. And I think that the one I'm going to start with is one of the ones I find most perplexing, which is this one, which is when you put an animate once inside of an animate sequence, it causes a random animation order. So for one thing, I will need to try to look at what an animate once is. The name is fairly descriptive, so I presume that I know what it is, but I can't say as though I've ever used it or seen it specifically. It works for exactly one loop. Here's an MP4 showing the problem. Using a Raspberry Pi Pico. This is from a while ago, so they tried CircuitPython 7. Feather didn't change anything. Or repowering, try non. Ask. Okay. Okay, yeah, basically we have a report of a problem here. There are a few more details about what they were running and a couple of different devices it's been run on. There's a reproducer here that we can work with. So just from the code, quick skim, we can create multiple animations, and then we can give those to the animate once, which is what's happening here, is then going into the animation sequence. I mean, I'm curious, like, what would this mean truly, though? If you're putting once inside of sequence, like, is that intended to achieve something different besides just putting the two animations directly in the sequence? So clear auto reset advance interval. Moving the nesting works fine. Red and blue alternate as expected. Alternate as expected. Okay, yeah. First, let's start with animate once, because I don't actually know 100% what it's supposed to do. I mean, it sounds like it would just run through once. In which case, these would go red and then blue, and then nothing else would happen. Which is maybe what this is describing, but maybe this is describing it continuing, in which case my understanding of how it works is not right, which will be good to know before I dive into trying to fix something involving it. Let's do that example. I have not turned on the camera. Gotten FreeCAD to behave and refactoring a project again. Nice. FreeCAD. Uh-oh. Okay, this is getting a little crazy on me. Let me maybe scooch this. Or, oh, I see. We're not on the... there we go. FreeCAD... I haven't gotten too deep into the CAD world. I kind of played with OpenSCAD a bit. I have a 3D printer. And I use it off and on a bit, I guess. I go through spurts of like, I want to print this, I want to print that, and then I'll go for a while without really having a use for it. But the FreeCAD I did look into very briefly once a while ago, but I never got too far into it. Everything I've done CAD design-wise personally has been OpenSCAD, which is a bit more limited, but it's kind of targeted at programmers basically, so it works out well for my brain. What's up, Gary Kester? Nice to see you, my friend. As well as Yano over on Discord. Nice to see you as well. Full screen is broken because this crashes the first time. Oh, can... Chat is cut off by the bottom. Oh yeah, you're right. Let me see if I can go. It's maybe still just a tiny bit cut off, actually. If it is, it will be a little bit harder for me to fix on the fly. If it is still cut off, let me know. I can't tell. My view is small, so I can't tell if it's cutting off part of the text or not. If it is, I will have to fix it later because it's in OBS properties and margins and stuff, and I don't want to go mucking with OBS too much while I am live. Still readable, okay. Cool, thank you. Okay, so let's just, I have, as you could see there on the camera, I have a feather plugged in with a feather wing that's got some NeoPixels connected. It's running an animation from some other thing I was working on, which we don't need to keep, I don't think. I guess we could. Kind of a order of Python scripts. Comet 257. I'm going to say 256 actually. 256 issue. Basically, this was an issue with comets that had a tail length that was bigger than 256. That was a test for it. This. And then I have 32 because it's 4 rows of 8. They are not on A0. They are on, I think, B10? Not actually positive. I'm going to set the, well, brightness is here. I'm going to lower the brightness again because these are kind of bright. Looks like it's the pulse effect. Okay. So that does keep going. So my understanding of animate once is wrong. So let's try to see if animate once says what it's really intended to do. I'm not sure that I understand how it differs from sequence if it just continues also. I guess no, I don't know. Let's see if we can find it. Where'd that come from? So LED animation sequence animate once. Animate once. Wrapper around animation sequence that returns false to animate until a sequence has completed. Takes the same arguments as sequence, but overrides advance on cycle complete equals true and advance interval equals 0. This example animates the comet in one direction and then pulses red momentarily while animations animate. Okay, so basically you would need to not use while true for it to behave how I imagined it was intended to. It's the next hypothesis. Brightness, that's right than we need. Okay. So for one thing, did we... Oh, that's this one. Okay, I was like, did we not get an extra yellow blink at the end there? But that's the one on the board. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, this is more like what I expected. So basically, it's kind of the same as sequence, except it returns false after it finishes the first time. And presumably from then on, I guess, if you keep calling it. So here we would see like true print a few times and then false forever. Hypothesis. There we go, yeah. So true while it goes through the first cycle and then false forever. Okay. And what does animate say that it's supposed to return? Like whether or not it's finished, I guess? What's the parent class for animate? Animation? Turn true if the draw cycle was triggered. Returns true. Oops, I also messed up the chat by not scrolling it. What dependencies for a touch sensor are needed? I think it probably depends on your touch sensor. If you mean like touch IO, like capacitive sense touch from a human's skin capacitance or whatever, then touch IO, the core module, is what's needed. If you mean like a touch screen or something, then something else. Like a resistive touchscreen has its own library. Capacitive touchscreen has its own library. Yeah. Part of this project is dealing with LEDs being too bright. I wonder if a piece of filter film, yeah, probably. It would, I'm sure. I sometimes throw paper on top of it, but I do not have a convenient scrap of paper here. There is acrylic they had in the store for a while, which I think maybe they still have some sizes in the store. But they were a bit bigger. They were meant for the matrix portals, but it's like a smoky gray acrylic that does a pretty good job of diffusing them to where the brightness is not quite as overwhelming. If the animation draw cycle was triggered. So to me, that sounds like it means, you know, let's say you have a blink animation and you set the speed to whatever, right? Like half a second. You're calling animate faster than half a second, and only every so often, you know, only every half a second, it's actually changing anything. So my interpretation of that is meaning like it's returning false on those times when you called animate, but it wasn't time yet based on the speed. We didn't actually have anything to do. Let's try to validate briefly if that's like correct understanding on my part. And to do that, I am going to change to just using blink or solid? Do they call it? I think it's, oh, there is a blink. Okay. Have these all been different pins so far? Okay, so that is on blink 0.5. If we just print that, does it go back and forth? Yeah, we mostly get false, and I don't see any trues, but maybe there's so many falses in between. Let's try, let's do that. Do we get trues that way? Yeah, okay, so we get one true every time it changes, looks like. We could even maybe validate slightly more if we printed time. So those should be about a half a second apart. Yeah. Okay. In fact, they're exactly half a second apart. Okay, so that is what that does. So then animate once sort of turns that sideways a little bit and does something different with the return value. So there's really not a lot here. It just extends animation sequence and then cycle complete. I will say though, I'm still not sure I understand the point. Let's read this. Reason for nesting was I wanted a certain interval at which the animations change, say 10 seconds, and then I wanted 5 differently colored pulses, 2 seconds each in a sequence of various other animations like shown in the video of the lamp. I also noticed it works without animate once and should have mentioned it right away. Okay, that we cannot necessarily deal with very easily. That file's gone. Because I'm using... let me catch up. Let's see. There are some panels in the store. I had a similar illustrator drawing on an LCD where it takes time to process the effect based on time. Solve it by letting a set value increment to the set effect logic and use time to control when the value increments. I'm using capacitive touch to turn on the Star Trek communicator and run the lights and sound. This is my first time trying to do this. I'll have cap touch, use an if statement, if touch, then run animation. Easy if you're using time.sleep. I'm not sure if all of these are referring to all the same thing or not. To the person asking about touch, I will say the best place to look is Learn Guide, CircuitPython Essentials. I think there's going to be a page for touch in there. If not, then we'll find it. Cap touch. This is where you want to go for capacitive touch, like touching a pin, basically. This is like if you have an alligator clip, or you know, the sort of common example is with the what is it, Makey Makey or whatever, where they got the fruit piano and you connect all your clips to the fruit like this thing is showing. Is there a banana in fritzing? They just Photoshop that banana in anyway. Now I really want to know if there's a banana. Maybe someone made one? Maybe someone made one to import. Okay, let's use the reproducer and see if we can't figure out why it goes random. It does seem odd to me that it would be random. That part's definitely very much I don't understand just yet. But my guess would be something about the way this is overriding changes. I don't quite follow either. In seconds, and then I wanted 5 differently colored pulses at 2 seconds each. Yeah, I don't think I follow exactly what the way they did have it was initialize that. We had 5 pulse objects, different colors, period 1, sequence. It gets animate once. Say I also tried without the animation group, which doesn't change anything. I don't see an animation group unless they mean, or what they mean. I mean, there's an import? My guess is maybe at one point this code had animation groups somewhere. Be wrapped around this? I'm not sure. But I still don't quite follow, right? Because if you put this in here and you have this while true, just calling this, it is only going to just loop through these same 5 animations. Or it's intended to just loop through these 5 animations. It's going in random orders, as we know. Not actually doing it correctly. But I don't see where the difference between the intention of what this is supposed to do versus what it would be supposed to do if this animate once just wasn't here, since there's no other thing after it. They say here they wanted to do change every 10 seconds, a certain interval at which the animations change, and then 5 differently colored pulses 2 seconds each in a sequence of various other animations, like shown in the video of my lamp. But the video's gone. Unless this one isn't? Oh, this is gone. So we don't get to see that. And I can't quite imagine what's going on there. Thanks for pointing me in the right direction. Yeah, for sure. I haven't figured out what the reproducer is doing yet, but when switching between 2 colors, periodically missing a blink will make it look like it's a random order. Yeah, let's run the reproducer. Maybe it's not random, but it is not calling animate fast enough or something. Maybe the cycle complete change is making it something else weird. Yeah, we definitely are getting like red, 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 blue, blue, red, red, red. That is interesting. My instinct is to start putting some prints in there. So when you call animate on the sequence, what happens specifically? Sequence animate says if not paused and advance interval, then auto advance, and then it says return self current animation animate. How often does this run? Auto advance. Is this when we change from red to blue, or? Oops. No, that is way faster. Call that a lot. Auto advance does what? If not advance interval, then return. So is this what happens most of the time or not? No. Seems to basically never happen. Unless it's going by so fast that we don't see it, but I don't see any of them. So that's never false, seemingly. Now is current time, I assume is what this does. Yeah. Implemented monotonic. That's using nanoseconds first, and then that's used from a few places, it turns out. So if now minus last advance greater than advance interval, then last advance now and advance. So auto advance, basically this is like when it's time to advance to the next one in the sequence. Advanced interval 5. What is advanced interval supposed to mean, though? Is that in seconds or what? Time in seconds between animations. If cycling automatically. You can cycle manually? Interesting. Okay. Well, it's to none. What happens if it's none? Is it just, it never changes until you call advance, or you advance it? Advance, that's lowercase. Activate, next. Okay. Next and previous. There is actually a random. Can you count exactly how long it takes for one effect to complete from start to finish? Possibly. I mean, I'm sure we can somehow. I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm sort of discovering how this code works as we go here. So we are always calling auto advance, and okay, is it always changing? So let's go print advancing. And this should be only every 5 seconds, so that should be way less. Although I will say, like, Did I change the code? It seems like we're on only red now. So this never really seems to print. We went 65, 82, all the way up to 70. There's 70, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. There's no advancing. Advance never happened. I didn't change the code. Did I change the code? I think I changed the code, did I? We definitely got blue at least once. Did it print? It's probably too far, isn't it? But the thing is, this prints so much that we don't actually get to see very much. So that red to blue, that was not 5 seconds. That's another thing that's odd here, is when we get... When it does switch, it doesn't take it 5 seconds to actually switch. Also, it seems like it's never coming from here. I can search this, but it doesn't work very good. Okay, so auto advance doesn't seem like it's doing anything. Let's print last advance and see if that ever gets bigger. Where's our other print that's printing the time also? Let's also print the last advance. Yeah, see, that never changes. Oh, it did change, actually. Changing after 5 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. 5 Mississippi. Yeah, it's changing after 5 seconds. So But the thing is, we are not just getting red for 5 seconds and then it changes and then we get blue for 5 seconds. That's not what's happening. We're getting random mixture of red blue for 5 seconds, then it calls advance and doesn't necessarily do anything meaningful because we have such a random mixture of stuff. But I think that the crux of this is these don't take 5 seconds to complete. But they should alternate still though, right? They should. Yeah, I feel they should still alternate. And if we don't have this, they do, or no? Oh, okay. If we don't have that, we get 5 seconds of one color, and then we get 5 seconds of another color. Interesting. Okay. So my thought would be... Sure what that speed actually is, 0.05. So if we were to put other pulse here, do we get 5 seconds of random red blue and then 5 seconds of pink and then 5 seconds of random red blue? Get no pink. And I didn't save. False alarm. False alarm? Okay. Okay. Yes. We get basically 5 seconds of random red blue. And then we get 5 seconds of pink. And then we get 5 seconds of random red blue. More red than blue, seemingly. By kind of a lot. We ever get a blue? I don't think have we seen a blue? Probably should have chosen green instead of pink, but we have never gotten a blue. Interesting. So when this changes, though, why do we not see advance? This does change. We do. Okay. Well, fair enough. It's the pink writing over the blue cycles. I mean, it could. Like, I don't think it should be, but it could be. I don't really know what it's doing. So when you call animate, it's calling current animation animate. My assumption, I don't know if we can get any meaningful information out of current animation. Animate once, none. Pulse, none. There we actually got some back and forths. Got some more back and forths. It's weird how I'm not really touching the parts of the code that should affect the behavior, and we're seeing different behavior. Like a minute ago, we had all reds. Like we never saw a blue for a while there, and then we started getting red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. Now we're kind of back to reds, and I didn't even change the code. I just Control-C, Control-D'd. So it's almost like the sequence once is advancing to next too often, or perhaps not advancing. On cycle complete. Let's print this. Let's see if this gets called. On cycle complete, animate once. I suspect we're not gonna be able to really see this if we don't turn off the other. Really need that yet. Let's keep it. Well, it's not going to be very useful. Actually, it doesn't even exist, so it's not going to be useful at all. It would be self.current animation. So we extend that. Let's just do this. Oh, but it's not going to... It's mixed with that. We're not going to be able to see it. So let's turn off the other one. Run cycle complete. Basically once a second. Okay. Let me try maybe what somebody was talking about before. This effect library is great in that it uses timed out monotonic instead of sleep, but that means that there isn't strict control on when it switches the animations unless it's written in. Yeah. Well, I mean, in general on CircuitPython, I would say there's not strict control over timing anything, really. You're always sort of at the behest of the core, which is like can be at the behest of the garbage collector, can just interrupt whatever you're trying to do timing wise. With this one, when this animates once, if we do a pulse of red with, if we match all of this stuff, we put pulse 1 here, and then we only run it while that is that, before, after. We don't really need after. We could just print the difference. Print minus before. So this will tell us how long one instance, one cycle of pulse speed 0.05 period 1 lasts, which is basically just over a second. So on cycle complete should not be getting called every second. I think it should be every 2 seconds if we were correctly doing 2 pulses. How does pulse actually get its timing? Does it say? So speed is not listed here. I guess that's in animation. Speed is here, but not really documented very well. Okay. Okay, speed, I don't necessarily think it has Fractional seconds. Okay. Speed is basically milliseconds. You pass in seconds, it gets stored in milliseconds. The period to pulse the LED over. Oh, this does have speed. I just missed it. Animation refresh rate in seconds. Okay, so that's our 1 second. Period 1 is 1 second. Speed we could go up and down however much we want, but we should still take 1 second for the pulse. And just to be sure, if this had both, it will take 2 seconds. Okay, yeah. I will say one thing that's a little awkward is we have running as a Boolean, which sort of implies when it's false that we're not running. And we set it to false. After we have completed a full cycle, which we saw that behavior before, but we don't check it inside of animate. So if the user code keeps calling animate, then animate once will keep animating. It doesn't really stop after once. But that's like not really this issue, I guess. To me, it takes exactly 2 seconds to complete. It's taking a little longer because of processing. There's potentially overlapping effects and random colors. I mean, potentially, but I don't think so because it should, like, it will slip a little bit because the timing's not exact. So, like, it should be exactly 2 seconds in a perfectly perfect world where we hit the exact mark of everything. This would be 2 seconds on the nose, and it is a little bit more because we're not in that perfect world. But I believe it won't cause any overlapping because of the way that it sets the variable to know when to go next time. Advanced, we should maybe add a print statement inside of here. Maybe was that in pulse? So, yes, we will slip a little bit. Like, in the perfect vacuum, our pulse takes 1 second, so two of our pulses together take 2 seconds. And we're not in that perfect world, which means we do slip a little bit. Our first pulse most likely takes a little bit longer than exactly 1 second. But what happens is we get the current, whenever it is time to change, we get the current time. We check if the current time is less than the next update time. And as long as it's less, then we return false. So it's not time to update yet. Once it is equal or more, then we will not return false, which means we will go into here and we will update, and we will set this to now plus speed milliseconds. So for us, that means inside the pulse, that means 1, I guess, because, well, no, because period is not speed. So speed and period are different. So that's 0.05 or whatever it was seconds, which is, I don't know, 5 seconds or 50 milliseconds, one or the other. But even if we're late for this, even if we passed this by a few extra milliseconds or whatever, it still shouldn't cause two things to happen, because there's still only one sort of control flow. There's no threads or anything, so there's no like stuff happening in the background. When we come through here, there's only one sort of like control flow that's coming through here. So when it comes through, even if it's late, it's going to set the next one based on the current time, which could be late or could be on time. But if it's late, then we take into account however late we were for the next one. So like we expected to be done in 1 second. Let's say it actually took 1.1 seconds, but now will be 0.1 second forward. So when we add speed to it again, we're like accounting for that extra 0.1 second. We're saying, you know, we still want to take however long this is until the next thing happens, even though we were a little late last time. That's my understanding just reading it here, though. But there's two effects using their own variables. Yes, maybe. Yeah, that could be the issue, I guess. So, but so there should not be both. I still don't see, though, how it goes back to back red. Even if we have both keeping track of their own time separately, why do we skip? And why is it random? It does feel like a weird race condition thing, though. We'll admit. Okay. I don't think we're going to see anything useful for this because they're both pulses, right? Just pulse none, pulse none, pulse none. But none, is none the name? Because I think there's name. Yeah, you might be right, because we actually did change to blue. Like right in there, we did change to blue, but not for a full second or whatever. And we can see here exactly when we switched back is when we got on cycle complete. So that is the 5 seconds or cycle complete animation once. Were we getting those every 5 seconds? Um, no, every 1 second. Basically, every time one pulse completes. It is weird we're only getting 3. Oh, we got 4 that time. Interesting. Okay. I don't necessarily anticipate does the second one overwrite the first one. I mean, maybe. Like, I don't. The truth is, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Animate once is doing something weird. The best thing I can think is it's not keeping track of which one is current correctly, and then when we cycle back around to it, it's in kind of a weird state or something. But I still I don't get why it doesn't go back and forth really. But it could all be down to like the times when we see it not go back and forth is it's always hitting the cycle complete thing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. What's if it's overriding or what's going on. I will say I don't really feel that much closer to a solution than when I sat down, honestly. I feel like I understand more about how animate once is intended to work, how animate sequence is intended to work. So I have some of the background that one might need in order to be able to look into this, but also it's been an hour and I don't think we're necessarily terribly close to a solution. So I think actually I'm going to tap out on this one for now and maybe aim for something that we can solve potentially. Okay, this one looks like it was done. Pulse, spark or pulse. Period got updated for it as well. Let's make sure those are still in the modern one. As long as those are there, then I think that issue's closed. Oh, those are examples. Pulse. Yeah, min intensity, max intensity. So that is resolved by 116. Not. I thought I logged in here. It auto logged me out. Okay, it's like, does reloading do anything, or just gonna do that for? Maybe name the print pulse plus color. Let it percolate. Yeah, that's the other thing, is this will swim around a bit in the back of my head. Maybe at some point I'll have an idea about it while I'm asleep or something. I will say I do tend to agree a little bit with what Dan was mentioning towards the bottom of that forum thread here, which is like, it's not the end of the world if it stays like that, because like I will still say I still don't quite follow why there is a need to put animate once inside animate sequence. It definitely seems broken to me. Definitely seems like whatever it's doing is probably wrong. But also I don't quite follow the intention of what it is intended to do with this inside of this, like from the user's perspective, like what are they wanting it to do? Not what the library is intended to do in that case. But I don't get what the user is intending to do, because they only had one thing, which to me makes it seem like it's just gonna loop over and over, which means there's no real. And they were doing while true, so they weren't doing like while animations animate. So I don't really get what animate once was meant to be adding there. Like, my thought is just remove that, don't do that, and then it won't be broken. But probably the videos would help. Probably the videos would have made it more clear what was going on potentially, but the videos are gone, unfortunately. Okay. Result. What? Result. Why can I click down here? Why can I click? Click. It's not clicking. I'm clicking, but it's not clicking. Can I not click down there though? That's like for real kind of annoying. Oh. Why? But it's done now, so. Okay, brightness. How difficult it would be to make it easier to update brightness of the animation once it's been created? Would also like a way to adjust the speed within the while true loop. Like the brightness. So let's read through this. And create. I'm using rainbow comet animation with a pixel subset. And while that's running, I also have a customized pulse running on another subset. As pulse.draw is called, I keep track of the current brightness level so that my other LEDs can change as well. I'd like the brightness of the rainbow comet animation to be in sync with that of my customized pulse. To do that, I created a customized rainbow comet to use the current brightness. So I think the problem with that is that the animation object doesn't have a brightness, does it? When you create an animation, you don't set a brightness, I don't think. Brightness is on the pixels. So if anything, it would be on the pixel subset object, I think, which they talk about using. Okay, I obviously have a grid, so my comet runs kind of zigzaggy. If we did 8, then it would always be on one row. No, it won't always be on one row, but it'll only be one row long. I don't think that's a thing, though. I think this is just letting me set it as though it's real, but it doesn't really exist. Doesn't really do anything. Because animation doesn't take a brightness, doesn't have a brightness. Nothing inside of animation mentions brightness. So if you were running a comet on one subset and a pulse on the other subset, you would need to change the brightness on your subset. You would need to change it on your pixels. Unless they only wanted a single pulse instead of 5 seconds a pulse. That was from the one we were working on. Sorry, unfortunately I didn't see it a few minutes ago, so I'm not sure exactly what was the context surrounding it, other than that it was for the old one. Well, the one I was looking at before. Let's do a subset. Is there an example for pixel subset? Map. X horizontal line helper. Don't see one. Pixel subset. Where would that be under? Is that side group or subset? Pixel subset is a map. Port this. Okay. So create the pixels and then create the pixel subset, which takes a start and an end. It's like, yeah. Okay, so let's split our pixels in half using this. We already have pixels. Our arm, I'm gonna just call this subset 1 with the lack of creativity. It's gonna start at 0 and it's gonna go to, I don't know, is it, I don't get to know if it's inclusive or what. I'll just say pixel num over 2. And then pixels, so this will be subset 1. Oop, stopped it. Okay. Does not look like we are off by 1. So I'm assuming that that is exclusive on the upper end. Yeah, because range is exclusive, I presume, after only glancing at the code. Okay, so comet's running there, and we wanted a pulse running on the other one, and we want to try to make the comet subset match the brightness of the pulse. Subset 2 starts on that, ends on 32, which we could just say pixel num. Except we didn't use it for anything. And then let's also go other pulse animate. So that should be pulse on 1/2, comet on 1/2. And currently nothing crazy going on with the brightness for the comet. But we should see, like, if we print subset 1 dot brightness, that should be changing. No, subset 2 though, because of the pulse, I think, right? No, that's always the same. That's tricky. A little bit, actually. So pulse is working by setting, by not by changing the brightness, but instead by changing the color to be more closer to white. Generator. Pulse generator. Dot star. Huh. Okay. My thoughts too, but that means you can control the brightness still. Pulse generator. Pulse generator takes a period, takes an animation object, takes a dot star PWM, whether to use. Okay, I don't know what that means. Animation object to interact with. Interact with. Self. Fill color. Okay, I think it's just. I think it's just manipulating the color. So it's making brighter pink when it's brighter, it's making darker pink when it's darker. I don't know why I just changed that here. That's not useful at all, really. Also don't know. Okay, there it is. It's named after itself, which is nice. Write the code to modify the colors at the same time. Yeah. There's our colors getting brighter and darker. Okay. So the truth is, like, how difficult it would be is actually fairly difficult because it doesn't know its brightness at any given point. Doesn't seem to me. Because pulse generator, which is a generator function yielding colors, is ultimately the thing making it get brighter and darker. Maybe color is changing, but then even if color is changing, like, do we have a way to quantify how close, like how bright we are as a color easily? I don't, off the top of my head. I mean, I guess that's the opposite of what pulse generator is doing effectively. It's taking a brightness and it's giving you a color, so there must be some way to go in reverse, I suppose, but I don't actually know what it is. So this color is changing, is that true? No. That is also just staying the same. Cycle position? But that's just a local variable inside the generator. It's not like a self dot thing we can access. So I mean, at any given time, I don't believe, it doesn't look to me like pulse class knows how bright it is. It presets the generator. Well, it doesn't preset it. It gets set to none to start with, but when reset gets called, that's not what I... When reset gets called, it sets the pulse generator, and from then on, the entire state about how bright it currently is all contained inside of pulse generator. To the best of my knowledge, there's not really an easy way. Like, I don't think we can say like self.generator. What was it? Cur step or something? Cycle position? I don't think that's going to work. We're not going to be able to get that. But that's potentially either cycle position or position. I'm assuming that that is like perhaps the closest thing we have to just straight up brightness. Like that will be 0 at one end and not 0 at the other end. That's my assumption. Oops. Yeah, here I am changing this again. Yeah. The position counts up to 500 and then back down, whereas cycle position counts up to 950 and then resets. But that is kind of effectively an analog for the brightness. But the truth is, like, we can't really change it that easily, or we can't really access it that easily in order to be able to set the brightness of something else. Turn a value from the function and write that to a variable in the class. I mean, so color is what we get out of the generator. Like, it's tough though, because I still don't, like, we could save color to a variable. We can't call it self.color because we already have a color and it's storing the actual pink that we passed in to start with, so we'd have to have current color or brightness color or something like that. We could save it on self and we could access it outside then, but it's still not, it doesn't tell you the brightness per se. Like, you would still need to reverse this somehow, basically. And I mean, if truthfully, it doesn't really give us anything new, actually, to be honest, right? If we store this on a property and then you can access pulse dot other color, current color, let's say, if we stored this on a property and we said pulse dot current color is equal to the one that it's on now, then you could access that here and you could have some algorithm to convert it into a brightness, 0 to 1 or something. And then with that, you could set the brightness on something else or do whatever you want with it. But the truth is, you can access that color anyway, right? We were doing that before, I thought, because you can just say print subset 2 dot, well, you could just say 0, as in get the color of the first pixel. And since it's doing fill, the first pixel is the same as every other pixel. I'm going to turn this off so we don't spam two things every iteration. So you can get the colors from the pixel object already. So I don't really see any upside to also storing them on the pulse class. And then I'd say, like, this is basically the best, not this part, but this here is basically the best that you can get. You can get the color out of the pixels that pulse is running on. And then if you want to, you could try to discern kind of how close your color is to black, basically. And that will give you a brightness. I guess you would, like, take the difference between... Yeah, I don't know exactly how you get brightness back from that, but I think you would need to do that. And you can do it with color anyway. Int color over 255. But then you'll get 3, right? So you have red, green, and blue. And then, like, how do you know that, like, max red and max blue but no green is brightness 100? Because if you, like, calculate the decimal for each color, you're going to get, like, 1.0 red, 1.0 blue, but, like, 0 green. So then the simple low-hanging fruit way that it would work in my head is you would end up with, like, brightness of 0.66, basically, because you had 2/3 of all the way bright. I guess is fine, but it feels like it should, like, brightness, the concept should be between 0 and 1. And by getting it from a color, you somehow need to rectify the fact that you might not be using all 3 red, green, and blue in your color, but you could still be at full brightness. Bust the second subset is already set to specific brightness as well. Yeah. Oh, I think probably the second subset. Yeah. Okay. I do think the tail end of this, though, we could probably do. What this person says would also be nice to adjust the speed. I think that we can actually do easily, probably. Let me get this undone. Let's just get... Honestly, let's just go... Excuse me. Sorry, I don't have a mute button. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. The change on the RGB with the highest value would have a better effect too. Okay, here you go. Check which one's highest and then use that to tell your brightness. That's a good point, yeah. I want to undo this. Also this. I will update. Make a new branch. Dynamic speed. Although I don't know if they did mean speed or period. They might be talking... Well, for pulse, it's almost... Like, for pulse... There's elval. For pulse, For pulse, the period almost acts like the speed in a way. Or... thing that my brain thinks of as the speed. So speed itself is actually on animation. I thought you could set that. You can set that. So they must mean period, I think, which I did actually just add period to rainbow. I think it was rainbow recently. Yeah, these are brand new pretty much. I think the other animations that have a period probably should probably get that. So I'm actually going to change the branch name. I'm going to go back to main, new branch, and just say period property more animations. So there's blink and there's pulse, and they're different. Pulse is, I guess, a fading blink. Let me get rid of comet for now. Okay, and then just to make sure, start time equals time.monotonic if the current time minus the start time is greater than, I'll say 3 seconds, and I'm also going to make a boolean changed false. Actually, we don't need that there. We could just say change true if not changed current changing speed, and then other pulse speed. So it started on really fast, 0.05. If we changed it to 0.5, that's 10 times slower. So I think it will make it like chunkier, basically. It won't be fading smoothly. Yeah. So changing speed works. It might not do what you expect, depending on which animation you're doing. But it does work. This one is only twice as slow, so it's not as pronounced of a difference, but it does get chunky. Basically, it's like... yeah, you can definitely see it slowing down there. So that works fine. So they must be talking then about period, I think. Can you set the change on a second subset for a clear difference? Can you set the change on a second subset for a clear difference? Yeah, we could do that. I don't really like necessarily having other pulse and other pulse 1, but that's cool. So a little too lazy to change it, so we'll keep it for now. We'll go other pulse 2 speed, so one of them so they'll start out the same. Oops. Start out the same, and then after 3 seconds, the blue one changes to be chunky, and the pink one stays smooth. The pink one's still running, kind of washes out the camera, makes it a bit tougher to see the blue one, truthfully. But it is basically the same effect. What did I change in here already? Oh, I changed the level. That's fine. So yeah, basically we can do pretty much the exact same thing I just did in Rainbow recently, honestly. Because it used a generator similarly. All we need to do really is set the period value and then call reset, and then that will update the generator so that we can use the new value. So we'll make a property def period turn self period. This is a property property, and then a setter. Period setter def period. I like new value. It's kind of a set. And when this, basically steal the same thing from here. Except we don't need to say default to 5 because it doesn't really default when we're doing the setter here. Here to pulse the LEDs over. I will say in seconds. It is in seconds, as we found earlier. Would increasing the number of changes make it smoother? I'm not sure if I understand what you mean. Yes, like a smaller period will make it smoother because it will make the lights actually change more times in the same, let's say, 1 second period. So I shouldn't use the word period, sorry. A smaller period will make it smoother because the lights will be changing more frequently. A larger period means the actual color of the lights change less frequently. I'm wrong. I'm saying for speed. Everything I just said applies to speed. A smaller speed will make the pulse smoother because the colors are changing more frequently. A larger speed will make a slower pulse. It will be more chunky. Period, on the other hand, is how long it takes, presumably, to go through one full cycle of pulse off all the way to pulse on, and I presume back to off. Like, I would guess that a period is from off up to on and then back down to off. My assumption is that's one period. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. And in any case, we'll be able to change it just by updating the generator like this. Doesn't necessarily matter if my understanding of what it is not actually perfect. It could be maybe it starts at on and goes to off, or it could be that it starts at off and goes to on, but not back. Any of those could be the case. But I do think all of them will behave the same if we make a public, well, they'll behave the same way for whatever they did. Public speaking, wear it badge? Public speaking, wear it badge? I'm not sure what you mean. My poor ability to public speaking? That could be what you mean. It's true. I'm not the best public speaker. I've gotten a lot better from streaming, but definitely not the best. Yeah, okay, so we can save this, and then here we would be able to change the... We could change, actually, now the period. Sorry, guys, I'll slow down. No worries. Period equals... So we're on 1, so we'll make this 2, and it'll be twice as slow. They start in sync. Changed happens, and now... It's a little... I am gonna switch it back to just doing 1 for now, actually. It's a little tough to tell... Like, it's really mostly the camera. Looking at it with the naked eye, it's much easier to tell, but the washing out of the pink being on is washing out the other one a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Switch that to there. We got period 1, then changing, and now it's like twice as slow. Still smooth, but twice as slow. Or twice as long for that full down to up thing. And then we could do that to 5. It would be even slower. That would make it super more pronounced. You get 3 blinks there, and then changing speed, and now it's 5 whole seconds from off to on to back off. If my theory earlier about what the period represents is correct. Period were longer, increase the number of changes to be less clunky. Yeah, period, I guess, also will... longer periods will also end up resulting in chunkier pulse. Because there's a finite number of colors between dark pink and bright pink, which is what pulse is like moving between. And by giving it a longer period, we're stretching out the time in which we're using the same amount of colors. So actually, period ends up making it chunky as well as speed. Ultimately, period and speed kind of are the same thing. There are different numbers and they behave differently. Like period is in, well, speed is in seconds too. They're kind of the same thing, but speed is like happens many times per period. And period is obviously once per period, but changing either or actually has similar effects on the resulting visual animation, at least with pulse. What is that? Oh, another glove. So which all animations have a period? Okay, pulse, and I just updated it there. Rainbow, and I updated it there previously. Rainbow sparkle does, so let's add this here. Make sure it is gonna behave roughly the same. Actually, you know what? This extends rainbow, which means we get to use rainbows one, so I don't think we need to make any changes here, actually. Let's do a rainbow sparkle. Oops, I don't really want to turn that off. Okay. That's our rainbow sparkle. And actually, I'll keep this. We didn't pass a period, which means it will default to a period of 5, which means, well, first of all, it means we shouldn't do this after 3 seconds. We should wait at least 5. So I guess let's wait 5, and then let's set it to 1, and that should make it go way faster, which I think means it will change colors faster. I'm not actually sure. There's our change. Sure if that is actually changing colors faster. It might be. Honestly, I'm not convinced it did anything. Maybe this extends rainbow, but doesn't actually use the period? Does default to there. Not sure that the period's doing anything here. So it's calling, we do super init rainbow? Generate rainbow, super generate rainbow. Brightness. Nothing in here accesses period. Nothing in here accesses period either. color wheel generator does. I shouldn't change this here. It's in rainbow. Okay, that didn't work. Or it didn't go back to there, which it would have done if it did work, so I consider it to have not worked. And that means either that the superclass is not behaving how I think. Print setting period. Does that get printed? Maybe the superclass setter is not working? That is not working. So we need specifically those on the subclass? Those don't come through? Interesting. So, like, sometimes I feel like I understand Python inheritance, and then I come across something like this where I'm like realizing that I don't understand it as much as I thought I did. Because we're extending rainbow. I would have thought, like, I'm using rainbow sparkle, right? Yeah, we're using rainbow sparkle. Rainbow sparkle extends rainbow. I totally would have thought if we were setting... Oh, I'm being stupid. Okay, hold on. Well, I'm not being stupid. I'm just testing a thing that I don't think I'm... Not testing the thing I think I'm testing. Means it probably does actually do what I thought originally, which is make the colors go by quicker. Yeah. Yeah, totally does. Totally does. It's kind of spastic and probably hard to see on the camera, but like blue, pink, red, and then now we're going much faster through the colors. Like here, red, we started on red. We're back around to red just now. Now we're on red, now we're on red again. Red again, red again, red again, red again. So we go way faster. Okay, so that is working from the parent class. Whew, my understanding of inheritance is actually correct, which is good. I just had not changed the variable in my code. Silly mistake, but that does work. So now, what were the other ones with a period? Are there any more? Sparkle pulse, but that's okay. But that's extending sparkle. Does sparkle does not seem to have. This is an example. Sparkle pulse extends sparkle and has a period, but sparkle itself does not? Is that? Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So in that case, we would put the period property here, and what is it doing? So, yeah. Pulse generator. Sparkle. So does sparkle have a reset? Doesn't have a pulse generator either because it's not a pulse. So we actually, in this one, we're going to need to make a reset as well, and the reset will do this. but we will need dot star, which means we will have to do this thing again too. That's fine, I think. Not sure what dot star is here. Dot star PWM. I don't know what that means. Okay, and then we don't have reset, so I'm going to add it. Def reset basically will be this line, then this line, and pixel object gets I think it's put on self, I think. I don't know what it's called. Animation. Object. Okay, that'll use the new period which we just set there. That should work. I am again updating this repo. Let me just get the whole thing actually. Okay, so that's going period 3 to start with, and then I'll just leave that on 5, changing Sparkle Pulse is the one we want to run. Sparkle Pulse is also the one we want to change. Does it default to 5? All the rest of this stuff? Yeah. Let me go to 5 instead of 3, just because it's a more pronounced difference, but... Okay. We have kind of a brightness pulse and a sparkle turning on and off individual ones. And I guess it already did its change. But yeah, we can kind of see the brightness is like real slow, and then after we change, we start getting much quicker. Much quicker there. Okay, so that's working. And that's the last one. Everything else here, pulse generator is used by all the animations, well, some of the animations that we just added that to. Sequence, that's just an example of using pulse, which we already updated, and then the rest of these are all examples. So pulse, rainbow, rainbow sparkle, which extends rainbow, so we don't have to do it specifically, and then sparkle pulse, which extends sparkle, but we do have to do it because sparkle, the parent class, doesn't have a period. So that should be all the things now that have a period class. I mean, a period argument should be changeable now. I am a little surprised that like Rainbow Chase and Rainbow Comet don't have a period, but I guess that's just because they don't work the same way. They're always changing colors based on one pixel over, essentially, not they're changing color based on location within the strip rather than based on the time. I guess that's why they don't have a period. Yeah. Okay. Run pre-commit, but I can't actually run pre-commit without changing to a newer version of Pylint for libraries that are not on Rough yet. I started a branch where I started moving this to Rough, but it's not ready to go yet. Okay. So one of the things about, though, having to change Pylint like that is the newer version of Pylint that I just specified is more stringent about some things, mostly how many positional arguments that you have. And so now there's a lot of like these things that say they're failing are not really related to any of the code that I touched, which does make it tricky. But I think the real solution to this ultimately, in my mind, is we're working towards slowly but surely, and it is moving the libraries to Rough. All right, so we fixed level, we added period to pulse, and then we added period to sparkle pulse, which also required adding reset. Animation speed already is a property on animation class. I'll just say superclass, and it is already settable. Sparkle always makes me think of this, the old Homer. Yeah, my wife has this on a shirt. It's funny. It's a little chuckle out of me whenever she wears it. Okay. They called it speed instead of period, but speed's already a property and it's already settable, and it does already affect the animation that is running. Both speed and period affect the behavior of the animation in similar ways. For some of the animations, at least. Okay. This I've been working with Lady Ada. She's been asking me to ping her on the issues that I'm working on, so we'll do that. We'll see if it passes. And then here, I think I'm going to close this and mention this one I opened a PR for, but the brightness is not very easy, not very practical. Not really probably a thing that's going to get done anytime soon, at least. So yeah, I'll just say took a look into this. Having a brightness property would be quite tricky because the current brightness level state is only stored inside of the pulse generator. The pulse, are they doing pulse? Yeah. The pulse class itself doesn't have access to that. The close and brightness in there isn't just a value 0 to 1.0 like pixels.brightness. Instead, it's kind of like 0 to 950 is what we saw when we printed it out. Integers. You could map it to the range 0.01 wanted though. The closest thing that you can do today, and the way I would probably recommend to approach the behavior noted, is by accessing the color of the pixel subset that is running the pulse animation. Do they give their code with the subset? Not really. You could say like pulse subset 0 will give you the current color of the pixels in the subset that is running pulse. From that color, you'd have to convert it backwards to find out what brightness level was for, in order to use that information on the other subset. I'm going to close this because I think it would be quite tricky to implement and ultimately give you the same basic information as accessing the color of the pixels could do today without any changes. I have submitted 123 to add period property to pulse and sparkle. No, sparkle pulse? Rainbow sparkle. Sparkle pulse. Which were the two remaining animations that had a period argument, but not property yet. This new property allows you to update the speed. I'm just going to call it speed, even though it's a different property. This property allows you to update the speed of the full pulse cycle for those animations. Then here, actually, I'll say with regards to at dev comment. Okay. Also a fan of novelty t-shirts. Yeah. Okay. I think that is going to do it for tonight. We got a couple of them closed down. We got a PR open up to add period property to some more. We went down the rabbit hole on brightness. Did not necessarily catch any rabbits, but it was still insightful. Yeah, I think I will call it a night for now. I don't think there will be deep dive next week. I'm not available next week, I don't think. And as far as I'm aware, Scott is still not going to be back yet. So stay tuned to the Discord. If he is going to be back, I imagine he will ping the deep divers role, but I don't believe he will be. And so in any case, it might be the third, could be the next deep dive. If you are interested in CircuitPython development content like this and you want some more, you are in luck. I do stream also over on my own channels on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Time. So tomorrow morning, I will be back working on some more CircuitPython stuff. And I don't know about next week. I probably won't be around next week on Saturday either. I'll have to see for sure. But I am tomorrow, so tune in tomorrow if you want some more CircuitPython. Thanks for the string. Sorry to duck out partway through. No problem. Yeah, never an issue if you need to pop in and out and go take care of stuff or whatever. The VODs are always there if you want to check them out. And if not, that's no problem either. If you want to just pop in and say hi, that's totally cool, and I'm happy to have you and see you and say hi as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday night and a good weekend. If you celebrate winter holidays such as Christmas or Hanukkah, then I hope you have a happy holidays, be that Christmas or Hanukkah or anything else that you celebrate. And if not, then just have a good day, good week, have fun tinkering, all that sort of stuff. Again, I'll be back in the morning tomorrow. Otherwise, I think next deep dive, probably 2 weeks from now on the 3rd. I think that's everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye, everybody.